Greetings and welcome to another Pokemon 2019 or Pokemon Journeys the series anime video. So recently Pokemon Journeys has been plagued by breaks, meaning weeks where there is no episode, unnecessary recap episodes that no one wants or needs, and pointless filler in the true normal episodes that we do get. These three things have collectively tarnished this series, which is very unfortunate. Now, I have talked several times about what I think of all these breaks, recaps, and fillers, so my thoughts on the matter are very clear. Therefore, there really was no need for me to make a video just to tackle the subject in more detail. I was content with just mentioning my disappointment and hatred for this collective plague every chance I got. However, when I saw that after episode 127, we would get a break and then another recap episode, I just snapped. Because I seriously could not believe or accept this, since episode 126 was also a recap episode. This revelation and my subsequent anger because of it are what ultimately inspired me to make this video. I decided that I just had to make a video talking about all these breaks, recaps, and fillers. Why are they necessary? Why is Pokemon Journeys drowning in them? And why are they so awful? Let's get to it. First, I want to begin by defining each term. This will allow me to easily illustrate the purpose of these three things and the effect they have. So let's start with break, which is the easiest one to define and understand since it is a universal term that just about everyone is very familiar with. And just to be clear, I mean break as a noun. Simply put, a break is a pause in work or during an activity or event. A break can also be defined as an interruption of continuity or uniformity. Next, let's define recap, which can be a verb or a noun. As a verb, recap means to state again as a summary. As a noun, recap means summary of what has been said. In the context of anime, a recap is when they show us things we have already seen and/or they tell us things we already know. The purpose of this being to remind us of what has transpired just in case we forgot, which can happen when, say, an anime gets a new season 9 years after the previous one. However, most of the time, we don't need to be reminded of anything, especially with anime like Pokemon that run continuously. So most of the time, recaps are completely unnecessary. Last, but certainly not least, is filler. A filler is just what it sounds like. It's a person or thing that fills a space. In the context of anime, filler is content that is not related to the main plot, or that does not advance the story in any way, shape, or form. It is content that is just there to fill time. It is there to extend the duration of episodes artificially. Since a filler is anything that fills time, anything can be considered a filler. For example, a recap can be used to fill time. Therefore, it also qualifies as a filler. Pokemon Journeys is very much guilty of this. However, due to the nature of most fillers, filler has taken on its own definition within the context of anime. When referring to anime, filler is any content that does not follow the source material or that is random, nonsensical, and out of place, or that does not forward the story or that is completely inconsequential/unnecessary. So in anime, filler is not just something that fills time. Instead, it has taken on a completely different meaning. It has become its own thing. In fact, filler has transcended to the point that even content that is 100% canonical, content that is present in the source material and that is a legit part of the story, may be called filler just because it feels like or resembles the content that is normally used for filler. Likewise, because filler is no longer just something that fills time, recaps, flashbacks, unnecessary long takes, long pauses, and long still frames, and silly random sequences like Morpeko eating a bunch of different things are not called or referred to as filler, even though this is exactly what they are since they all fill time. So yeah, filler is a simple term to understand, but there are a lot of things that can fall under it, and it is important to realize this. But that is each term defined. Now we can talk about why these three things exist. Why are they necessary? Well, their purpose can be boiled down to one very simple thing: buying time. All three of these buy time. Whenever a studio is unable or incapable of having an episode ready on time, they need to find a way to give themselves more time to finish the episode. They need to buy time. A break gives them one more week to work on the episode in question. A recap episode allows them to have something to air in the given week, or something they can air in the week right after a break, which buys them another week, since they do have a slot on TV that needs to be filled somehow, so they cannot just take several breaks in a row. They do need to air something eventually, even if it isn't a real episode. Though granted, some anime do stop airing prematurely so that the studio can have several months to finish the remaining episodes. But this is not something that a long-running anime like Pokemon can afford to do. Now, ironically, fillers don't really buy time in the same way that breaks and recap episodes do. However, fillers do allow the studio to extend the content they have available or have planned. So for example, if the content they needed to do or that they wanted to do is only enough for 2 episodes, using fillers as padding, they can extend the said content to cover 3 episodes. Meaning that they can get more out of the same amount of content. Meaning that they have to come up with less content and or they have to plan for less content. So they essentially buy themselves more time to come up with or plan for new content. Filler also allows a studio to work less on each episode. They can have less to do per episode since they can make shorter episodes that are then brought up to full length with filler. This buys them time to work on future episodes which can then also be padded with filler, meaning that the studio can save a ton of time and work overall. So basically, these 3 things are all used to save studios when they find themselves in the unfortunate situation of being behind the schedule on an anime, which is something that happens due to poor time management, lack of resources or having too little resources, a rushed production schedule, subpar planning, unexpected complications or circumstances, lack of manpower, the desire to deliver something good / truly special, etc. I do want to mention as well that some studios simply use recaps and filler because they are lazy, while other studios use these things because they wanted to limit the amount of content they adapt per episode, because they don't want to catch up to the source material, which would force them to stop the anime until there is more material to adapt. Now of course, the Pokemon anime does not have to worry about the latter, and hopefully the former does not apply either. Now, thankfully studios, at least most of them, do avoid these unfortunate situations. But when these adversities knock on the door, breaks, recaps, and fillers become very appealing, since they can ease the situation. Of course, since Pokemon Journeys has been plagued by these 3 ailments, it's clear that the studio is currently going through some rough waters, meaning that they are facing one or multiple of the situations I just mentioned. Since these ailments began to plague Pokemon Journeys when the Masters Tournament began, it's clear that with the Masters Tournament, the studio bit off more than they can chew, which is such a shame and it's very unfortunate, especially since the Masters Tournament had the potential to be simply amazing. It could have been not just the best part of Pokemon Journeys, but also the best part of the Pokemon anime as a whole. But sadly, this potential has been mostly squandered thus far, and the huge amount of breaks, fillers, and recaps are partially to blame for this, since every episode was bogged down with unnecessary recap at the start, with several unneeded recaps/flashbacks during the episode, which all served as filler to pad the episode's runtime, and with several inconsequential moments that were obviously used for filler, such as Go using his Pokédex on Pokemon we have seen before, Morpeko eating random things, Team Rocket talking about the tournament on their livestream, etc. All these things took up time that should have been used to expand the battles. Now, all of this was a problem on the weeks where we actually got a normal episode. There were of course several weeks where we simply did not get an episode at all, or where we instead got a recap episode. Both of these things just killed the momentum of the tournament. Our hype and excitement were just constantly peaking and dwindling. We also had to wait longer between battles, which makes the tournament feel disjointed. It does not feel like one cohesive arc of constant thrills. Instead, it feels like a series of small, isolated instances of enjoyment. In fact, I wouldn't even refer to the Masters Tournament as the Masters Tournament arc. Instead, I would refer to each part of it individually, as their own little arc separate from the rest. It is also worth mentioning that because they wasted so much time with useless filler and unnecessary recaps within the normal episodes, and because they had to use up so many episodes for recap, they ended up having to rush through the new content they did provide, so that it could fit into the time they set aside for said content, which was less than what it should have been. This fast pace led to disasters like Leon vs. Diantha, and it greatly and negatively impacted the quality of the tournament. Also, despite having extra time to work on the episodes, they were mostly only able to deliver something serviceable/acceptable/passable instead of delivering something amazing. So, saying that Pokemon Journeys has been drowning in breaks, recaps, and fillers, which have greatly diminished the quality of the series, would be a huge understatement. Now, before moving on, I just wanted to illustrate how many breaks and recap episodes Pokemon Journeys has had since the Masters Tournament began. This will allow me to better paint the picture of just how bad this plague has been. The Masters Tournament began with episode 115. This episode was followed by a 2-week break, so we had to wait 3 weeks to get episode 116, which was followed by episodes 117 and 118, which were both normal episodes. However, episode 119 was a recap episode. We then got episode 120, which was a normal episode. Then we got episode 121, which was also a recap episode. So episode 120 was sandwiched between 2 recap episodes. Episode 121 was followed by another 2-week break, meaning that we had to wait 3 weeks for episode 122, which was followed by episodes 123, 124, and 125. Episode 126 was then another recap episode. We then got episode 127, which was a normal episode. Episode 127 was then followed by a 1-week break, meaning that we had, or rather have at the time of recording this, to wait 2 weeks for the next episode, which will be yet another recap episode. So just like episode 120, episode 127 was sandwiched between 2 recap episodes, though this time the sandwich also has a slice of break in it, making this situation even worse. So in the span of about 4 months, there were 5 weeks without episode, and 4 weeks where we got a recap episode. So basically a total of 9 weeks of nothing. 9 weeks is over 2 months. This is more than 50% of this 4-month period. Also, out of 14 episodes we got in these 4 months, 4 were recap episodes. So around 28.6% of the episodes we got in this 4-month period were recap episodes. Meaning that almost 1/3 of the episodes we got were just recap. When you look at this plague mapped out and calculated like this, it really does not look good whatsoever. Also, do keep in mind that this does not take into account the recaps and the fillers found within the normal episodes we got in these 4 months. If this additional wasted time was also considered, then things would look even worse. Now, the Pokemon anime has had clip show / recap episodes before, and it has also taken breaks before, but it never had this many of each in one series, and previous series did not have so many episodes jam-packed with recaps and fillers. Therefore, it's safe to say that the Pokemon anime has reached a serious low point with Pokemon Journeys. So that's the purpose of breaks, recaps, and fillers. The reason why Pokemon Journeys is drowning in them and the effect they have had on this series. All that is left now is to talk about what makes breaks, recaps, and fillers such awful things. So, why are they so horrible? Well, simply put, we already have to wait a week for a new episode of an anime that is airing. Meaning that no matter how much we love the show, or how much we wanted to watch it, or how badly we want to see what happens next, we cannot just binge the show. Instead, we can only watch 1 episode per week, and we needed to wait a week between episodes. So it is simply terrible, just dreadful, supremely depressing, and very, very sad to wait an entire week only to not get an episode at all, forcing us to wait another week, meaning 2 weeks total, just to see another new episode. It is simply insulting, just disheartening, supremely frustrating, and very, very disappointing to wait an entire week only to get a recap episode. Especially when you see that there is a new episode and you think that it will be a normal episode until you actually start watching it. It is simply annoying, just irritating, supremely upsetting, and very, very infuriating to wait an entire week only to get a new episode that is half or heavily filled with filler. Meaning that you are getting less content than normal, and you might spend more time hitting the right arrow key on your keyboard than actually watching the episode. And the episode inevitably ends in a massive cliffhanger because the episode was padded just right to lead to said conclusion. And every time things get good, the episode cuts to a flashback for the umpteenth time, thus halting momentum and making you feel like you are on one of those rides at Universal Studios that spin, rise, drop, and go fast until they suddenly stop, stopping the most fun and enjoyable moment just so that you can gawk at something or have some narration delivered to you, both of which tended to be buzz killers, just like recaps and flashbacks. So yeah, the biggest and the most prominent downside of breaks, fillers, and recaps is that they make waiting for a new episode and the subsequent payoff of this wait an absolute and a total tragedy / nightmare. Now, this is not their only downside, of course. They are also a huge waste of time and resources. They put a stop to the momentum of the action / story. They diminish the quality and esteem of a show and how much you love it, and they kill any and all hype, anticipation, or excitement built by a previous episode, since these things get colder the longer you have to wait for them to be fulfilled. Recaps/fillers are also annoying in the cases where you just want to skip past them in order to get to the new content. This is made even worse by recap episodes that have a little bit of new content in them, meaning that you have to go through them carefully, skipping and checking so that you can watch just the new content, like digging through a cereal box just to get the prize inside. It is also inconvenient when you have to check a watching guide in order to skip fillers and recaps, though this applies only to long-running anime that have finished airing or that have a bunch of episodes available. I am looking at you, Bleach, One Piece, and Naruto. So yeah, I absolutely and completely hate breaks, recaps, and fillers, and I will always despise them, no matter what anime I am watching or what studio is responsible for them or what reason is used to excuse and justify their use. But that's everything I have for you in this video. Again, I really did not think that I would make an entire video just to discuss this subject, but I just got so frustrated with Pokemon Journey's current situation that I simply could not help myself. Do let me know in the comments down below what you think about all the breaks, recaps, and the fillers that we have been getting in this series. But that's the video, as always. Leave your own thoughts down in the comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did and would like to see more like it, then please consider subscribing to my channel. I love Pokemon and I love making videos on both the anime and the games. Also, please consider clicking the links on screen so that you can check out more videos like this right away. Thank you very much for watching, and let's meet again in the next video.